Saeem, I have a first question to you. We all know that Australian cricketers are the best paid cricketers in the world. They get the maximum amount of money through their contracts. Now, if the most well-paid cricketers are unhappy, what about the rest of the world?
Well, first and foremost, tell me who doesn't want more? Whatever you're earning, I think if you can get more and you feel you deserve more, you're definitely going to ask for it. So I don't blame the Australian players for asking for more at all. I think what they have done is they have looked at the possible revenues coming in and therefore decided that they should be getting an X percentage of that revenue. And clearly I think they have done their calculations so I think it's a matter of sitting down across the negotiating table and trying to come to a percentage share which both the parties will be happy with.
Do you suspect, Saeem, that this has something to do with that threat of Cricket Australia telling some of the contracted players that do not play in the IPL, we'll pay you a little bit more money? Do you think it's all a fallout of that particular dispute? Cricket Australia saying don't play the IPL?
Well, I don't think that was the issue when the negotiations broke down. I think the negotiations broke down well before this supposed approach came from Cricket Australia. One is not even sure whether the approach has come through or is it just some kite flying done. Because look, there has always been a certain section of the international media which has tried to bring the IPL down. So it could just be just one of these kites being flown to suggest that the players will be given that much more to come over here. Having said that, I think what happens with the IPL is a lot of the players get in 45 days of cricket much more than what they would get for 2 or maybe sometimes 3 seasons of their domestic cricket. So why would they give up something as lucrative as playing in the IPL and agree to a figure which might not be what they would get from the IPL?
Okay. Simon, let me ask you a bigger question here. Do you think international cricket is under threat? I ask you this because, recently we had a series, Pakistan and West Indies playing, and you could easily say that that was West Indies B playing Pakistan. We've had the West Indies team pull out earlier as well. Now Cricket Australia players threatening they will not play the Ashes. Do you now see a situation where international cricket is under threat if players are not going to play for their national teams?
Well, I think first and foremost, administrators have to realize that I think the most important cog in the entire wheel are the players, the playing fraternity. And but for the players, but for the kind of cricket that they play, the monies would simply not be there. And therefore the players need to be compensated for sure. What I would, however, like is that it's not just the international players that get the compensation. In the Indian context particularly, I feel very sorry for the Indian domestic player who does not play in the IPL because he plays something like 81 days of domestic cricket. And possibly, I think if there's a player who plays all 81 days of domestic cricket, which means all the Ranji Trophy matches, including the finals, the Dulip Trophy, the Vijay Hazare Trophy, all the Mushtaq Ali Trophy, if he's going to get about 35-40 lakhs of rupees, and there's some unknown guy who, because he's been seen in some corner and he's bowled well or he's batted well, and he ends up getting 3.5 crores and 4 crores to play 14 or maybe if his team gets into the finals for 16 days cricket, I think that is completely unfair, totally unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. So there's nothing wrong with the Indian players asking for more money because they are the ones who bring in the money. But I would at the same time, the guys who are going to make the decision must make sure that there is no disparity between the Ranji Trophy, Dulip Trophy and the IPL. If it is needed that the uncapped player, the unknown player, there has to be a cap on how much he can get, so be it. But I do not want to see that disparity where the Ranji Trophy player feels like an orphan. He feels that he's the orphan of Indian cricket. He slogs day in, day out for 80 odd days and he gets not even a fraction of what some guys who are lucky because of the auction who get 3 and 4 crores. I think that disparity needs to be looked at more than anything else.
Okay, fair points you're making there, Sunny bhai, but if keeping that in mind, as you're saying, some Indian players who are not playing international cricket or IPL should get more money, then why doesn't BCCI, and up until now, why hasn't BCCI allowed some other Indian players who are not part of that contracted list to go and play other T20 leagues? We see, Australian, English cricketers playing in India, then in Big Bash, going and playing Caribbean Premier League, Bangladesh Premier League. Only India, the cricketers who are not part of the contracted list, I understand they're playing international cricket, but the rest of them are allowed to play other T20 leagues. Why not allow that in India too?
No, that's a completely different aspect. I'm talking about domestic cricket. It's a completely different aspect. Yes, maybe those who are not contracted to the BCCI should be given the permission to play. They can only play the Caribbean Premier League. They can't play the Big Bash because it clashes with the Indian domestic season. The only league they can play is the Caribbean Premier League. So that's the only league where maybe the top 30 players who are contracted to the BCCI may not be allowed to play, but the others can go ahead and play. But I'm talking about this disparity between Ranji Trophy and these unknowns, I mean, whose names you have not heard, who suddenly come in. And you tell me, in this year's IPL, in previous year's IPL, how many of them have even justified a fraction of the amount that has been spent on them? Some scout sees them somewhere and he says, look, okay, this guy is going to be a magical winner for us. It doesn't happen, because what he has seen is in some club level tournament. IPL is where international players are also playing. India's best players are playing. So it's not going to be easy for those guys who might have impressed you in a local or a gully game to replicate that success straight away. It's only a few who can do that. And therefore, that is the thing that should be looked at. Whether you want to allow the Indian players to go and play in the other leagues, yes, that is something that can be looked at for sure. But I can't, like I said, because every other league clashes with the Indian domestic season, they won't be allowed to do that.
Okay, Sunil, because we're digressing a bit, so I go back to that question that I asked you earlier. Is international cricket under threat? Because now we're seeing multiple international cricketers in different countries asking for more money, threatening to pull out of international cricket.
Well, I think the boards will then realize that the fans are not coming to watch the matches. If the best players are not there, the fans are not going to come and watch the matches. The fans are not going to tune in on television either. So I think that's what I said. The players are the vital cog in this wheel. And while I know that you mustn't pamper players, you must at least be fair to them. And I think that is where I think the Australian players, the Indian players, what they're asking for. You might say that this is a little too much. I would say that yes, if it is too much, then come to a situation where you come to an agreement. I would also like the Indian board to look at some of the elderly players, some of the past players, particularly those who are over 75 and 80 years old, who are really struggling. Health-wise, they are not in a great shape, not in a great space. Their medical should be taken care of. Every time a current Indian player gets injured, he goes for treatment overseas, as if Indian medical systems are not good. And the BCCI pays everything for him, maybe for his spouse or whatever. Everything is paid for. So why not extend the same facility to those who are over 75 and 80, but maybe 80 years old? Come to a decision. 75, 80 years old who are actually struggling. Maybe increase their pension. Increase the monthly pension that you're giving to those who are 75 and 80. Just increase their pension and give them medical facilities. Every time they need medical facilities, look after the medical facilities, because it is what they did in the past, in the 1930s and 50s, 40s and 50s and 60s, is the reason today Indian cricket is in the state that it is in. Because they were the ones with their cricket helped sustain the interest of the fans.